Hi there, welcome to the video and welcome back to return viewers. Yes, it has been some time since my last video. The enthusiasm for doing this hasn't been flowing through me exactly, and I've had a lot of other worries, health things and so on. But today I thought I'd just pop off a quick video to review 3 recent books I finished and just have a quick look at a small number of my latest pickups. So first of all, the first book I finished recently was On the Calculation of Volume Book 2. I'll put a graphic up here somewhere in case you don't know what that cover looks like. Now that is the second in the apparently long-running series, a Danish book about the lady Tara Salter, who is trapped in a time loop. Her life is eternally November the 18th, and first book was interesting but got a little middling and tedious before getting more interesting towards the end. Now the second volume tested my patience somewhat. I mean, I think Tara herself is not the most interesting person in the world, and if you put a most not particularly exciting person in the world into a time loop where their mind is being crushed by the repetition and the basically existential grief of the whole thing, I'm not sure how you're supposed to gain enthusiasm for the book, because sometimes something interesting happens, sometimes something intriguing happens. There's all these kind of like unspoken rules of her situation. Why do certain items she gathers close to her do not reset overnight, do not disappear, why other things do? The mysterious way that by just living day after day after day and buying the same food in the supermarket, she can basically exhaust a supermarket or a restaurant or whatever of its certain supplies of food. They don't reset. There are other intriguing things he mentions. He mentions difference between days with days. Is there some type of inherent random nature of the universe which not every repeated day things can be the same? It's not really explored, and I think that's why this series is bugging me. I'd like some type of explanation. I mean, there's still 5 volumes to go. I've just started the 3rd one. I'm basically on the title page. So in the 2nd one, it meanders, and of course she is trapped chronologically, but she is not trapped geographically. So she can basically travel around Europe, and she gets into her head to basically recreate the winter that she misses by being stuck eternally in November 18. So she travels to the colder climates up to the Nordic countries, Norway, etc., to find snow, and then she travels southwards towards the warmer parts of Europe to recreate a summer. So she lives an entire year of seasons but still trapped within November 18. That's the more interesting part. The more tedious part is that there was endless meandering about her internal state, about how she feels she is a monster for devouring the world, and so on. She ponders all sorts of things and issues, but there's no resolution, and frankly it just gets a drag. I guess I'm not the right target audience, but I think I am actually for this type of concept. You know, time loops, time travel, speculative fiction, that is me, but this book is just starting to grate on me, and you know, to think that there's at least 4 more volumes is pretty insane. I'm just pretty much hoping for Tara to go insane and go bananas or something, and just to liven things up. Maybe that's still coming. Of course, right at the last page of the 2nd volume, she drops a hint that there's a major change coming, that basically she's discovered another person trapped in a time loop. But we'll have to wait till the 3rd volume to explore that. So that is On the Calculation of Volume Book 2. Testing my patience for this series of books. I guess you could say it's just one book that's been chopped into 7 parts so far. Okay, and I won't even try pronouncing the author's name. I'll put it on the screen with the graphic anyway. So that is that. Okay, another book that tested my patience lately, well, is this one, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Mossfegh, I think. Now, this is kind of like one of the vanguards of a literary movement that's been dubbed Weird Girl Lit, the proponents of which kind of argue whether it is lit for weird girls or stories about weird girls. Your mileage may vary. So anyway, this is like one of the canonical volumes of that, and it promised to be something special. It's about a young woman in New York set in a very specific time period, the late 20th century, early 21st century. And she's from a privileged background. We learn all about her parents were privileged, but treated her very badly, and there's all sorts of things going on. And she decides, basically, after losing a job at an art gallery where she basically fell asleep on the job half the time, that to reset her life, to escape the horrors of life, basically, she wants to basically be unconscious most of the time. And most of the book she proceeds with this plan by taking all sorts of prescription drugs which promise to knock her out. She discovers a very compliant and apparently insane psychiatrist who will talk all sorts of rubbish and give her lots of drug samples, etc. She has an on and off again friend called Reva, who she alternately loves or hates or despises or loves, and there's some lot of dramas about Reva's mother, who's suffering from cancer and eventually dies. I hope that's not a spoiler. But mainly it was kind of nonsense. I hope that there was some type of subversive anti I don't know what self-help thing going on. So basically, she's going to do nothing and improve her life rather than, follow some mad scheme or something. But it was just a kind of dreary trudge of, today I woke up and took 16 tablets of this and that, and wondered what my friend was up to, and tried to contact my ex-boyfriend and all sorts of things. There's some comic moments, but mainly I just thought it was disappointing, and I wondered why it was set in that certain time frame, but it became obvious partway through when her best friend suddenly got her job transferred to a certain large building in New York, which was the location of a certain large tragedy in the early 21st century. I'm sure I don't have to explain more, and that becomes a part of the ending of the book. Mainly disappointed in this. I thought it could have been better. Some of the drug stuff, medicine stuff, I'm not madly up with medications, but although I've taken enough, but it seemed a bit like gibberish. I'm not sure that the person writing this had actually ever experienced half the stuff that she was writing about. Okay, last of all, recently, another disappointment, I'm afraid, is this, the third volume of the Booktop Shop Detective series from Gareth and Louise Ward, who are, of course, bookshop owners in New Zealand. They have thinly veiled versions of themselves. They are, in reality, ex-police officers from the United Kingdom, and in the book, they play bookshop-owning ex-police officers in the United Kingdom who have a penchant for solving crimes in their new home of Havelock North in New Zealand. Now, there's been like a continuing backstory about the evildoer Pinter who forced them from the UK to New Zealand, and Harry's been reaching out his tendrils to harass them and cause havoc on the other side of the world, and basically pursue them and cause murder and havoc. And this volume, which apparently is the last from what I've heard in this series, he basically comes to New Zealand and tries to bring everything to a head with our heroic main characters. I thought it was dreary, boring, and uninspired, like the authors had lost interest in their characters in the series and just wanted to do the rote ending, which you all know the good guys are going to win and Pinter's going to lose. And the way they kind of twisted some of their supporting characters into having meaningful parts of this whole plot was kind of disturbing. I mean, I really loved the first book. The first book was great and introduced all these kind of quirky supporting characters, like I just said, who helped run the bookshop or were in the town where the bookshop was located, and just the local landscapes and the use of New Zealand terms and te reo and all sorts of things. Even the main character's dog was interesting and fun, but the second one seemed to be a little bit worse. It seemed to be written to meet a certain deadline because the first one had been terribly successful, and so they dashed out a second one. This third one, I'm not sure what's happened. It just felt very flat. The humour wasn't quite there, or not for me. Maybe I have changed. It's quite like I have gone through a few things lately, but I just felt this was a waste of time. They could have, if they didn't want to continue the series, maybe they could have spun something off or something, because there were enough characters in here that were worth it. But I just felt that, Yeah, it was just a disappointment, really. I didn't really want this overarching backstory to become the main story, but that's what overwhelmed the kind of B plot or whatever about a festival involving a Cuban author coming to their town and the bookshop owners being tasked to organise it and all sorts of things. It kind of gets stifled but underneath the main story, which takes over, and it's just disappointing, and it's a sad way to see the end of these characters if that is indeed the end. So that is The Bookshop Detectives, Murder and Mojitos. Maybe read the first one and then ponder your life decisions. Okay, so that's the 3 books I've read lately. Nothing fantastic, I'm afraid, but I have picked up a few other items. First of all, this isn't everything I've picked up lately because I'm just going out of doing these massive book haul things, but this one here, The Hand Guide to the Birds of New Zealand, was given to me as a belated birthday gift by a certain friend. I have, using this camera that I am filming, I have got into a habit of taking a lot of photographs, and when I've gone to the local botanic gardens I've found with a particular zoom lens which I enjoy using, I've taken a lot of photos of the local bird life. And of course, not being a massive bird fancier or expert, I have no idea what some of these birds are. So, oops, not the tripod. So this book is basically showing you all the birds that you can find in New Zealand, so I will know what I am photographing. I almost forgot how to say that word. Okay, so that is the bird book. Other things I've got lately, so this was I went for a little expedition to King's Books and Stamps in Stanmore Road. I hadn't been there for a while. Just found what was available in their science fiction section mainly. So this is a omnibus edition of James Blish's series Cities in Flight. Heard about this one all my life. I used to have like science fiction art books which depicted scenes from these books, but I had never actually read them, so maybe I will eventually. They go back many, many years. They're very old books, but constantly being repackaged for newer audiences. So there we go. Also, let me see. Also from King's was this Quarantine by Greg Egan, Australian science fiction author who writes a lot of highly technical head-scratcher type things, but this is supposed to be one of his more interesting ones. Basically, 21st century Earth gets shrouded in some type of shell that keeps it from the rest of the universe. Why and how does this affect the people? So that is Quarantine by Greg Egan. What else have I got here? So this one I actually ordered from, I think, World of Books in the UK. This is the Kenneth William Diaries. It's my second attempt at buying this book. I actually ordered a copy a couple of years ago before I moved to where I am now, and it never arrived at my old location. Or if it did, the current people living there never told me about it. So second attempt of this. So Kenneth Williams was a kind of, I guess, outrageously queer media superstar in the UK in the latter part of the 20th century, or maybe the latter half of the 20th century. He became a star of radio and talk shows and a bit of television, and he had a certain image, certain stereotype, but there's a lot more to him, and this is basically his selected diaries, I think, collected after his death. And so he's always interested me, just because I spent a lot of time listening to like the old BBC type radio series growing up, and in later years on things like BBC Sounds when we still had access to it here in New Zealand. And he was a neat voice, and he was often quite hilarious on chat shows and panel shows and what have you. So it gave me an interest in his life. So that is the Kenneth William Diaries, edited by Russell Davies. I'm not sure if that's the same Russell T Davies of Doctor Who, etc. fame. Perhaps it is. What else? Also lately I've picked up 3 volumes of this now defunct magazine, Paperback Fanatic, and it's basically what it says. It is a kind of digest of articles for those who buy books, more particularly paperback books of the kind of more lurid horror, spy, romance, all that type of stuff that from mainly the second half of the 20th century. And there's like scholarly articles about the publishers and the authors and the artists who created this thing. And I think this magazine went out of business last year, around August, but you can still get back issues. So I just picked up the last 3 issues, and it's run from Amazon. Dare I say, I actually used Amazon, and I've read one of them, this first one, and it was very fascinating stuff. And a lot of the people writing, I recognise their names from elsewhere, because it seems to be quite a smaller world, the book collecting world. They're smaller than I thought. So that is Paperback Fanatic, still available, even if it's no longer running. And lastly, this book, The Fortunate Fall by Cameron Reed. Now, this is a book I knew about many years ago, and it was originally published under the name of Raphael Carter, sorry. And it became one of those books which was never actually available in print, or even scarce in second-hand copies, and second-hand copies went for silly money on places like Amazon and Aid Books, what have you. So recently they put it back into print because the author, who now goes by the name Cameron Reed, has put out a new book recently, and they want, promote the new one by saying it's by the author of the old one. It's promoted as maybe one of the missing links in the cyberpunk whatever heritage link between from then and now. This came out in the 90s, so it was kind of like second generation cyberpunk. Concerns a lady called Maya, who is what's called a camera in a future society. I believe it's the 23rd or 24th century, and she is like a human observation device who can transmit her senses and visuals and feelings through a network link to viewers around the world. And there's been some massive global calamity which the world has survived, and she is teamed up with a Japanese woman or entity, I can't quite tell you, I've only read the first couple of chapters, who kind of like filters Maya's perceptions through before they broadcast it out to the world, and they have to kind of have like a symbiotic relationship to create this process. And apparently they uncover some nasty things that people would rather be kept under the carpet, and this is all taking place in a crazy cyberpunkish science fiction world, of course. And this was also lauded at the time as being one of the better same-sex relationship type books, and got a bit of fame because of that. So that is The Fortunate Fall by Cameron Reed, formerly published under the name of Raphael Carter. So that is, I think, pretty much it. I have bought other books in recent weeks, but you can just imagine them until I've read them and review them. So hopefully this has been interesting for you, and we'll catch you another time.